We have made it. We are back. Stripe Show podcast on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. Tour Championship. The final 30 have arrived in Eastlake, including our man who's been on the road working hard, coming to us live from just south of Atlanta, Eastlake Country Club. At Read the Line, Keith Stewart. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. We're going to get some Read the Line t-shirts made up. Memphis, Denver, Atlanta.
Yeah.
We're back to sea level, and it is hot. It's humid. It is Atlanta. Here we are.
Yeah, you're in the southeast, and it's end of August, the dog days of summer, and I can tell you it's hot down here in Ponte Vedra. I played golf yesterday before we get to the tournament. A little course called TPC Sawgrass. A charity event out there on Stadium Course. Looks great. Had a wonderful time. And City Rescue Mission was the charity who does great work here in Jacksonville. And
what do they do?
Well, they help the homeless. And so
okay.
They bring in the homeless and take care of them and get them back on their feet.
Okay.
Had a really wonderful story of a gentleman who has benefited from that yesterday at the ceremony after the round. And so it was just a great day. The weather held off and raised a lot of good money. But my golf game, Keith, is
great.
It's just I don't even know how to explain it. Like it's kind of like it's like watching my favorite baseball team, the Mariners, who at one moment look really, really good, and then at another moment literally can't put the ball in the bat for like a week. Like they can't even hit it.
Hey.
And so here I am out there, and I'll go 2 or 3 holes. 18, bust a drive down there around the corner. Second shot in there about 10 feet, birdie, right? No problem. We started on 13, so we go around. We did the stadium early, and then we go to 1. Hit my drive right down the middle, wedge about 15 feet, made the birdie. Okay. Second hole sets up perfect for my draw. I hit it like over there, right of right. Third hole, hit it so far off the toe, I'm like 15 yards short of the green on the par. It's just like,
should I be writing these down?
It's just like, I don't even get it. Like, it's like 2 or 3 holes. I'm a couple birdies, par. Next 2 or 3 holes, you can't find my golf ball. God, I don't get mad because I'm a casual golfer now. I like to go out, have a few pops, maybe smoke a cigar with my buddies and, have fun, right? But when I spray it like that, that's when I get when it's just like this, sideways. That's when I get mad. It's not, it's not like right in front of me like Xander. When Xander misses it, it's just, off the right side, barely in the rough. When Scotty misses it into a green, it's 25 feet, pin high on the right, not 10.
True.
When I miss it, I clank it on the toe, and anyway. That's enough of that. It was fun. Great event. Enough of that. Let's get to Atlanta. I got to ask you a question, okay? Ask you a question. You've been out there now for 3 weeks, and I was talking about this with some people yesterday about about the buildup of the playoffs. And of course, everybody has their opinion. The playoffs should be this, the playoffs should be that, right? It's never going to be a perfect system. But I'm curious, you being on the road from Memphis to Denver, now Atlanta, is the buildup real? Like, do you sense there is a buildup? There are the playoffs. We are getting to the Super Bowl. This means something to the players. It's exciting. Are those the kinds of things happening? Do you feel like when you're out there on the road with these guys?
Well, it's an interesting year to ask that question because you have one individual that's so far ahead that normally that's not the case. So it seems like he's pacing himself, right? It seems like he was a little frustrated with the whole altitude argument last week, and it wasn't hitting shots as precisely as he liked, and he got frustrated. But I think that even with the Hideki thing last week, I was there after the rain delay when he missed the 2-footer, and then the next morning he doesn't show up, but he's 1 shot off the lead. And then now he's back playing this week. I think that these guys at the top, whether they like the system or not, they understand what those starting strokes mean, and they understand that they're playing for $25 million. So I think that they've kind of paced themselves. Obviously not Keegan and Hideki. They've worked their way in there. But I think the top 2 are kind of like just hanging. I feel like they both felt when they started the playoffs they would be 10 under and 8 under, and nothing was going to change. So why like work too hard? Then
Mhm.
we'll be in the same spot. Um, in other years being out here, I feel like the top guys have been not pacing themselves as much. They've been pushing more. I think these, because of the year that they've had and the points that they have, these guys had a unique opportunity to do that. As far as everybody else, I mean, I think some of the most compelling stuff we've seen over the last 2 weeks have been the cut lines to the top 50 and the top 30. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's, guys missing putts and they knew it. They knew where they stood on the last hole going in. And so I think that's been really good. So I think overall, the momentum is building for a majority of the players. It's just a unique situation with the guys at top, which means this week should be super entertaining because those two guys, there is no next week, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
we're going to get the full tilt Xander and Scotty going after it, whether they have their game or not, which I'm sure they both do. I think we're going to get a show between those two, which is exactly what everybody wants.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it'd be great for those two to obviously um, play great golf, right? Or maybe not. Maybe they go out and they're kind of hovering around even. And so all of a sudden here comes Sam Burns, who's playing good golf, and he shoots 67, 68, and he's right there one back, or Patrick Cantlay or Rory McIlroy, who's starting at 4 under, or maybe you go all the way down to Justin Thomas and his putter finally wakes up, man.
Come on,
And
he's 10 shots back.
and he
He's
goes
not.
unconscious. I'm just saying, like, we've seen Justin go unconscious before with a putter, which seemed unlikely at this point. But it's interesting. It's tough to wrap your mind around this. Of course, there's two ways to bet this. You've got one side where you're going to bet the FedEx Cup, where you've got the staggered start. Scotty's at 10, Xander's at 8. I'm not going to go through all of it right now, but all right, who wins that? And then you've got the 72 hole, which, okay, everybody's starting from even, and who wins that. So we'll kind of speak to both sides of it. Putting a bow on Denver or last week. Boy, it's been a while since I've seen that many top shelf iron players struggle, with their irons like that. I mean, Scotty doesn't lose strokes approach very often. Colin Morikawa doesn't lose strokes very often. I mean, we could go down the list of a number of players that just you could tell the elevation, and then you put the wind and the elements and all the trouble around. And boy, there was a lot of math computing, and it wasn't your run of mill, right? And Scotty looked human. And just, as we've seen him in autopilot, and this course and the course played more difficult than I thought that it was going to play. And then, and so then you have a winner. Then you have a winner of Keegan Bradley, who iron game, with no surprise. I mean, Keegan can hit it to, obviously +6 strokes gained approach, and he loses strokes putting. I think it was like 1.5 or something. And basically the difference was he just controlled his ball better with his iron game and distance control, and didn't get frustrated, held in there, and Keegan Bradley wins. I mean, I tell you, it was a fascinating tournament, with Castle Pines. We got to do that again. Like that was cool.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It was I've been out here 3 years now, and it's got to be outside of the majors, it had to be one of the coolest tournaments I've experienced, because the top 50 of the year, there's not a ton of guys around. Everybody's earned the right to be there. It is it was pretty cool. BMW, I mean, you can't say enough nice things. I mean, the amount, and Denver showed up too. I mean, Denver was pumping 30,000 people a day into that place, and with only 50 guys in the field and a tight tee off window, it was a lot of fun. I walked around with Rory and Wyndham on Friday. Derek White was with us. Everybody was just, I mean, it was just a good, congratulations to Denver and BMW and the Western Golf Association. Everybody did a great job last week, and they were rewarded with great crowds and a great entertaining tournament. It was. You knew I was on Adam Scott, and it didn't work out, but it's betting.
Yeah. He struggled with the flat stick there. And just had his moment, or I know. I mean, it's just.
Hey, at least I had Lydia Ko, right? Like that made me feel better. But Adam, man, I just loved. Oh God, he was hitting the ball so good, and then People always, I can remember back being in the golf shop, people always be like, "Hey, Keith, I can't putt." And then it was like, "All right, well, have you seen my friend, the long putter?" And the
Mhm.
guys on tour are the same people, right? Like at some point, Adam struggled with a short putter, so he went to the long one, and that really helped him, but it didn't help him enough this time, unfortunately.
Yeah, he hit some uncharacteristic putts. Kind of, it looked like he goosed a couple, from a speed standpoint.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he would have won, obviously, probably if
Oh,
if that putter would have cooperated. All right, let me ask you this:
go ahead.
we we're in Eastlake, which is
Yeah.
a great spot, just south of Atlanta. I've played it a couple times. It's the longest. It's the longest Bermuda rough I've ever seen in my entire life, ever. I mean, I like there's moments where like these guys are great. I mean, they're great. Like you hang around. I had Cam Smith in here a couple weeks ago, and like I've been around him enough and running TPC. Like no one needs to tell me like I know these guys are great players, right? But when you play a course like Eastlake, and you go play it from where they play it, right? And it's not running as fast on the greens and this and that. Even when you play it, like they're going to set it up difficult, but you get a taste of the rough. And then you go back and you look at what these guys shoot, and you're just like, what? Like how? It is some gnarly Bermuda rough. But there's been some changes there as well, right? At Eastlake. There's been some different things happening on the golf course. So give the audience an update, Keith, if you will, on the changes Eastlake made, the condition of the course, the rough, and are we looking at a similar player? We know Xander's had a ton of success, or is it a different feel, or maybe it opens up a different kind of player? As you're answering this, I got to plug my computer in, so I'm going to be gone from the screen for 1 minute. But answer starting now. I'll be right back.
All right. Well, the easy answer is it's very different. That being said, the topography of the land and the layout of the holes have not changed, but they stripped down all the grass and they completely rebuilt this golf course. Andrew Green came in and he gained a lot of accreditation for doing the job that he did up at Oak Hill. We had the PGA Championship there last year. He did a great renovation there to that Donald Ross golf course. This is a Donald Ross design down here at Eastlake. And he has brought it back to that classic kind of flow with the land, but he's modernized it for these power players. And it was a really tight timeline. And you can tell by looking at the short game areas and the greens that they could have used, well, certainly another month. But and it's not going to look bad on TV. It's not sparse, but like when you do a grow in and you're at a place where they've redone the greens and they sprig them and it's Bermuda grass, and when they come in, they're going to be like super Bermuda. So
Yeah.
like you can't factor Bermuda putting and Bermuda chipping enough. And
Mm.
with you talk about, you brought up the word sightlines. Like Xander's still going to feel super comfortable here. The sightlines are very much the same. The par is different, but it's still the same sightline basically off the tee that they're used to hitting on 14. So 14 went from a 520 yard downhill par 4 to a 580 yard par 5. But like the par 3s are still brutal. They're still all over
Yeah.
200 yards. One's an island green at 215, the 15th hole.
Brutal.
You know, the most significant change is probably the 8th hole, which was like a 460 yard par 4 with the lake on the left. And now it's a 390 yard drivable par 4 with the lake on the left. Really, really some genius there that Andrew Green has done. I have a lot of experience with Andrew Green designs.
Hmm.
The course at home that I play a ton with, he redid the master plan back in 2014, and the course has slowly been, making a lot of the green changes over the last 4 to 5 years. And man, this guy is extremely good at working with the land.
Hmm.
I would say that's probably his number one characteristic. And they had an aerial photograph from 1949 that was in high resolution, well, as high resolution as it could have been for 1949. And they put this place back into a position of where, man, there's some really cool stuff going on. I mentioned the 8th. Wait till you see the 17th hole. It has this wild cross bunker that, for which was pretty much kind of like a mundane right to left tee shot, medium-sized par 4 for these guys, second to last hole. Now there's really something to think about there. There's just been a number of spots where he's really, really created like the 7th tee where you're up on the hill in the back, like what's that, the southeast corner of the property. You can like see Atlanta now. Like you can see through the golf course.
Wow.
Like they removed a ton of trees. It's pretty wild. But overall, if you've been comfortable playing there before, I'll say 2 things from a handicapping perspective. If you've been comfortable playing there before, most of the, I didn't get on every tee box and look, but everything looks pretty much the same. They didn't like take a whole hole and move it to the other side of the golf course, right? And the second thing is that, man, you better be a good Bermuda player.
Yeah.
Because this place looks grainy and gnarly and bushy everywhere, right? So, like, you better be a good Bermuda player. So, Scotty Scheffler with that putter on Bermuda grass greens, you better talk to your roommate. That's all I'm saying, because, man, oh, man, it looks grainy as heck. So that's what I would say from a betting perspective. The skill set, I think, is still very, very much the same. You got to get the ball in play. Got to be a great long iron player. But I would definitely emphasize more short game and more putting than you have in the past for this place.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'll tell you, getting that Bermuda rough, or that the Bermuda rough's brutal. But then around the greens, you're talking that grain. Does that
that's
factor
really
in with like a Victor Hovland, who, hey, gained 1 stroke last week, around the greens, obviously played very well here last year. But the par threes, yeah, you make a great point. I mean, that's what always stood out to me after playing it. I mean, 2, all right, 2's not some of the others, but it's a good hole. Plays just under 200 yards. 9 is beast mode.
9, they added 30 yards.
9 is
260 now. It's 260.
Yeah. 9 is just brutal.
Come on.
11, great hole, 214 yards, and then 15 with the water, just brutal. I mean, 200, and they add some distance to that too. Usually around 210. Yeah. So you got some big boy long irons, like you mentioned, into these greens, and of course that kind of speaks Xander Schauffele, who just might get his tour championship this week. All right. Before we, we're gonna do a couple of different things here today's show, because this is a unique week. Only 30 guys in the field. But before we get to that, we're gonna do a little something we call our first look. Give it to me.
I'll get my mouse in place here.
All right, here we go.
Warm up the arm. Wonder if I have to double click it this week because there's 2 tournaments, but I won't.
I know you're giving this. You gave me 2 names, and you took one of mine. But go ahead.
All right,
go ahead.
Boom. The FedEx Cup champion. No surprises here. Certainly not on the odds board. Will be Xander Schauffele. But I like, over at Read the Line, the 72-hole gross tournament where everyone starts at scratch, right? Everyone starts at even par. It was a tie last year. It was Victor and Xander. They both shot 19 under. But in that tournament, you're going to get much longer odds on a lot of these guys. Remember, it's a 30-man field, so we're not getting somebody, that is going to be 250 to 1 or something, so if you get somebody in the 20s and 30s and they win this thing in the 72-hole gross tournament, then you're doing something. And I love Sam Burns at 25 to 1 with the way he's been playing. And in this like Bermuda grass palace, it seems like a perfect fit. So those would be my 2 picks in the FedEx Cup. I think Xander wins. And then on the other side, in the 72-hole gross tournament, I think that you got Bermuda Burns.
I agree. When you sent that over, that Sam Burns was my guy on the 72 holes, who's obviously Sam's been playing some great golf. I mean, boy, his putter's just been superb in the playoffs. 5th at FedEx St. Jude, 2nd at BMW, and now he comes back to the Southeast, where if anybody's accustomed to thick Bermuda, it's Sam Burns coming from Louisiana. His iron game's been solid. I think I've said this many times. If it feels like if Sam is just slightly above average with the driver, I think he wins the 72 holes. I think that's always the thing with me with Sam. And I think it's been okay. His driver's has been pretty solid here for most of the summer, but it just feels like he's coming in. It feels right. Doesn't it? Just feels like it feels right for a Sam Burns and the way that he's putting and his iron game. And yeah, like I agree on the 72 holes.
Yeah, I mean, he was also 12th at the 3M, if that
Yep.
counts. And that's a tough
Hmm.
place to drive. But you remember at the beginning of the year, he had 4 straight top 10s because he was hitting the driver good. And
Yep.
then the middle of
Yep.
the year, something happened. Well, you and I, we call that fatherhood. All right. So maybe there was a little distraction,
Yeah.
but he's having a good season. He's come
He
back
is.
and he's got these 4 straight starts that have been absolutely spectacular. He hit the ball great last week. He's coming to a place where he finished 4th last year, and the agronomy really, really fits him. So I feel somebody like him, and a couple things that Green did that are unique when you start to really dive into the changes that he made. The first one is that he only increased the length on 14 holes. 3 holes he shortened. So it goes to show you that the guy had a plan in mind. The second thing is that he added more fairway grass. Now, granted, I know he added length, but he added more. He added 5 more acres of fairway, which is more than would add up than more than the length was, right? So
Hmm.
maybe it won't be as penal a place off the tee, and that'll help Sam Burns. I like the way he's coming in. That's my
Yeah.
rationale. That's from
Yeah, I
going 10.
agree. Let me ask you this before we kind of shake it up here a little bit, because you mentioned Xander to win the FedEx, which I agree.
Yeah.
Scotty, as everyone knows, is starting at 10 under, and Xander's at 8. The winner between Scotty and Xander. Xander wins, he's the player of the year. Scotty wins, he's the player of the year.
No,
Nope.
probably not. No, I think the players. It sounds like because there's a lot of that being asked on the range and in
Okay.
the press room over the last 2 weeks, and there's been a question that keeps getting asked of all the players that come in. Would you rather have Xander's year or Scotty's year? And it's very situational to the player. So, like, if a player doesn't have a major, they're like, well, I would. The gold medal and the green jacket seems pretty nice, right? And 7 wins. If a player has a major, they're like, man, 2 more majors would be great. That would be even more career defining, right? So it kind of depends on the player, but all of them to a man seem to lean towards Scotty having 7 wins, a gold medal, and a green jacket, and a players championship. And his consistency seem like they're going to vote in that direction, even if, and they're throwing out the caveat. They're like, we don't even care who wins the FedEx Cup. And
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
See,
yeah.
that's wow. See
I
that
would say it's like 70-30 Scotty at this point if
see
they were
that's
voting.
where that's where that bothers me, right? And the PGA Tour, when they listen to that, and I get it from the player's perspective, but the PGA Tour just like, come on, guys, really? I mean, come on, throw
Well,
us a bone. It's got to, if it doesn't mean something to you, if it doesn't mean something to the player, then look, the rest of us, the casual fans, is going to be like, well, I mean,
I mean,
it doesn't, there's no box to check. It doesn't mean anything in the player of the year. Doesn't even factor it in. It's already decided at this point. It sounds like, according to you, they don't care. Torch, yeah.
well, the players vote, and a majority of players that I've heard from or spoken to, they're leaning towards Scotty. Now,
Yeah.
again, everyone can change their mind, but I mean, if
Yeah.
you want to solve this problem, just line them all up head to head. Give me 32 guys this week down here. 32
Yeah.
plays 1, not match play, but in stroke play. Let them play 18 holes of stroke play against each other. Give me 32, 16
Yeah.
on Friday, 8 on Saturday, 4. They'll play 36 on Sunday. Stroke play,
Yeah.
head to head for 18 holes, right? There's no, you're not going to get, I don't want to pick on anybody, but you're not going to get a guy. I mean, you're going to get the final 4 is going to have Scotty and Xander in it at this point, right?
Yeah.
On Sunday, and you're going to get what
Yeah.
you want for TV. So stop complaining about that. But everybody loves single elimination. That's why the college football playoffs is up to 12. That's why the NFL is so great. That's why the NCAA bracket's so great. Just line them up. You earn the postseason. You lined up. There you go. And then if you want, take half of the $25 million and give it to Scotty at the end of the season for the Comcast top 5 whatever deal, right? Yeah. You win that. Here's $15 million. That's fine. The FedEx Cup is the trophy. It's the Lombardi Trophy. It is what it is. You go in. We'll do a couple weeks of this. We'll set up the top 32, and then bang. Let's just let these guys absolutely go at each other toe to toe, and let's see who the real dogs are. I mean,
if I'm the PGA Tour,
yeah.
I mean, the player of the year is the guy that wins the FedEx Cup. I mean, that's your crown jewel, right? I mean, that's what.
I mean, yeah, it's a lengthy conversation, but
yeah, I know. I mean, there's a lot of factors. That's part of The problem with golf is you have so many other entities and the majors are their own, which I get. But I mean, if I'm the PGA Tour, it's like, all right, this is my crown jewel. It's like the Super Bowl. This is our crown jewel, and the winner at the end, they're the champ. You know, I mean, that's
other sports have that problem too, though. I mean, not everyone agrees on the MVP of the NBA or the NFL, Trav. But they do
that's
agree that
different.
somebody won the Super Bowl.
That's different, though. I mean, it's a team sport, so you can vote on an individual. Like, that's a different conversation. But golf's an individual sport. And so to me, it's like if I'm going to have a playoff and whoever wins the playoffs as an individual, I mean, that's the champ. I mean, that's who it is. Anyway, that's just me talking. I mean, I would agree. I think Scotty, it's just interesting to me, like that. Like the playoffs, the playoffs have some traction. They've done a lot. I think they've done what they can do, to this point. It's just never going to stack up to the rest of it. I mean, no matter, I think, what you do, how much money you throw at it, and the players are telling you that it just doesn't matter. They're telling you this is the players of the PGA Tour. They're just saying, hey, the vote's in. Like, what? Like the Tour Championship, that doesn't mean anything? The vote's in.
And you're shocked by that?
No, I'm not shocked at all. I'm not shocked at all. I'm just saying that.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, it's just never going to have the stature that it wants. And the only way that it will is if it means that much more to the players. That's the only way it's going to. If it means that much to the player, then it will mean that much to the rest of us. And the players are telling you that it doesn't, because we've already voted on who's the player of the year. Like, well, wait a minute. You haven't played your.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying anyone voted. I said this is where they're leaning.
They're leaving, yeah. But I think it's, to me, if you ask me, it's a moot point. Like, okay, if Xander wins, so he's the player of the year. Does that change the mind? Does that change the mind of some players?
Okay, let's leave the names.
You sound like you're saying no. Right.
Let's leave the names out of it, right?
Yeah.
Who had a better season? The guy with 7 wins, a gold medal, and a green jacket. We're not talking about 7 wins without winning a major. We're talking about 7 wins with a major and a players, right? Versus a guy who had 2 wins. Granted, they were both majors. One guy definitely has a better year. There's no doubt about it. That guy should be player of the year. Now, you're right. If somebody wins the last thing, that's one more win, but that's still, and with starting strokes. But anyway, it gets too complicated.
It's tough. I know, I get it. I'm not trying to be, it's just tough, right? It's tough to find the real placement and value of the Tour Championship. And I don't know what else the Tour could do. I mean, I think it's, if your own players are saying that, hey, we've already, like, and I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I think it is the case. Like,
that's where they're leaning. That's what they think.
Yeah.
And the players are the ones competing against Scotty and Xander, so they have the best idea of who's the best player of the year, right?
Yeah. All right.
And that's the way they feel about it. So,
if you're like most golfers, you blame yourself when you miss a short putt. So after you hold back the urge to throw your putter in the lake, don't do that. You try to fix your putting stroke. But how long does that last? 1 week, 1 round, 1 hole? There's a company called Lab Golf that doesn't think you should be blaming yourself. That's because all putters have this thing called torque, which means the putter face is trying to twist during stroke, so you grip it like a snake. What Lab Golf did is they figured out how to make putters with no torque. They call it lie angle balance, and you have to feel it to believe it. I did. The Lab Golf putter, you don't have to use a funny putting grip to try to keep the face square. You can putt it any way you want because Lab Golf putter stays perfectly square by itself. It's effortless. To see how much easier putting can be, head over to labgolf.com. Can you give us some names on who? No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's go to the bottom of the board. All right, we're starting at the bottom of the board. Okay.
all right.
And I'm going to list these names.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me if any of them you have any interest in on winning the 72-hole tournament.
Oh boy. Okay.
And or they're going to make a run at the FedEx Cup playoffs. All right, we're starting an even par. Chris Kirk, Aaron Rye. My boy Rye didn't want any smoke, did he? Last week, I was hoping that he would run up there. All right, Tom Hoagie, Justin Thomas has made it. Christian Bezuidenhout. Those are your 5 guys at even. All right, now we go to 1 under. Tommy Fleetwood, Billy Horschel, Matthew Vaughn, Sepp Straka, Taylor Pendrith. Any of those 10, do they get you excited at all?
I mean, a lot of them are great placement bets because of the form that they're in, and they're trying to impress captains for Monday's captain selection for the international and the
Right.
President's Cup. So like a guy like
Right.
Taylor
No back
Pendrith
of that.
or a guy
Yep.
like JT. JT's been here 7 times, never finished worse than 9th, right? He's sitting 4 shots off
I'm
a
not
top
sure he's
10.
ever putted. I'm not sure he's putted worse than he is right now, though. I mean,
All right, so you're telling
ever.
me he's at the floor. We can only go up, right? Chris Kirk could be on the outside looking in for a captain's pick. Those are the guys I would be looking at. Can any of them win? On the gross side, no, and on the FedEx Cup side, certainly not.
No.
There are people playing better.
What is Justin Thomas going to do? I mean, I've been saying this for a while now, right? I've been saying this for a while. He's got to do something different with his putting. I mean, this is going on too long. There's got to be some kind of intervention. And look, Keith, we're not talking about like slightly struggling. We're talking about consistently losing 3.5 strokes a tournament, and it got worse at the BMW where he lost 5.5. So there's got to be some kind of something done there after this tournament for him. Like, hey man, let's peel this back and figure it out.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, he's once again, he's going to be the most polarizing captain's pick when they put him on the team for the President's Cup.
Yep.
You know, and I feel like he's going to be there for sure. Everything I'm hearing out here and what we need from a leadership standpoint on that team. But man, I mean, he won a Players and he won a PGA Championship.
He's so far from that
with a
right
professional. No, but with my point is he won those 2 tournaments with a professional putting coach, and right now it's his dad. So I would change something up. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, and he won when he won the Players. He didn't really putt like overly great that week either, did he? I mean, didn't he?
He did on Sunday.
He did on Sunday, sure. I know, but like overall,
yeah,
it's just great. It's just crazy to me that what we're seeing right now with that flat stick. And man, it just seems to be getting worse. You know, I mean, he's consistently tracing here now, tracking 3.5 in the red. I don't know. I don't know. All right, let's go. All right, let's go to 2 under. None of those 10 get me excited.
No.
All right. Next 5. Akshay.
Yeah.
Bhatia. Love to see Akshay. Yep. So happy Akshay's here. What a great season. He's starting at 2 under. Robert McIntyre, Victor Hovland, Russell Henley, and Ben On. They're all at 2. Anybody get you excited?
I mean, Victor's the only one there. It's got the he's got the Maserati engine to run with what's coming next. So the other guys are great, but you know, Data Golden Boy, Henley is not, you know, again, there's a lot of motivation there for Henley, for guys, you know, to get on this President's Cup team in a year without with live players. And like these guys, he's got a huge, like Russell Henley would be an incredible foursomes player up at Royal Montreal. The guy never misses, right?
Right.
And he gets help putting sometimes. And so like, I mean, he's got a lot to play for, but are they going to win? Again, I don't see anyone outside of the first couple guys winning the FedEx Cup, but the 72-hole gross, I mean, Henley's just a top 10 guy, right? And he's great at that. Don't get me wrong, and he'll be pushing hard this week. But everybody's going to talk about Georgia and the Bermuda grass and everything, and he's going to finish like 8th, and that'll be that.
Yeah,
and everyone bets him to win. So.
I like Victor. I like Victor this week a lot. I think Victor's coming. I mean, he had it. Look, I'm willing to look past he had a very bad putting week last week. Very bad. I'm willing to look past that at Castle Pines. There were some unusual things happen. I mean, Scotty Scheffler lost strokes with his irons for crying out loud, folks. So, I mean, if that's happening, like it
was a test.
Unusual week. So, I think Victor. He obviously, speaking of comfortable with sightlines, Victor played very well here last year, obviously winning the FedEx Cup. His iron game is really, really good again right now. I think the driving's fine. I think his short game is steadily improving. Again, he's moving in the right direction again. And so I'm going to look past that Iron Week. I like Victor this week, 72 holes. I like him. I really do. Can he run up and catch Scotty? That seems silly, right? He's not going to run up and catch Scotty, but over 72 holes, straight up gross, I sprinkled a little Vic.
Yeah, I mean, shot 19 under last year and tied Xander for the gross. So yeah,
I sprinkled a little bit.
I can't argue against that. I think Victor's trending towards positive. I'm not going to bet him. My eyes are on some other people, but
you should. If you like money, you would bet Victor. I just told you. If you like money, you would.
Yeah. You're just poking the bear today. I love it. I love it. You're so
well.
You're
last
so
week. I'm not gonna get to talk to you for a couple weeks. So I gotta.
What, you're not already geared up for the Pro Core Championship out in Napa? Come on.
No.
I know.
Not.
All right.
I am.
Move up the board some more.
All right. We got to go to this next one because I got a question. All right. We got to go to this next one.
Go for it.
Now we're at 3 under, folks. Okay.
Yep.
These guys are starting at 3 under. Tony Finau, Shane Lowry, Adam Scott, your boy, Sungjae Im, and Sahith Theegala. What the hell has happened to Sahith Theegala? Gee, Christmas.
He's hurt.
He's hurt.
He's hurt.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right arm.
I mean, I don't want anybody hurt, but I'm rather have it, attributed to that. Okay.
I mean, this is why people should pay attention to what we're saying because I'm on site and I see what happens. Billy Horschel has a bad back. Sahith Theegala has a bad right arm. I mean, these things are real, and they're affecting their play.
Something's up. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay, so
he got a ton of support last week, though. People love him, and they love that he's on the President's Cup. But we need him to get healthy.
Yeah, how can he not? I mean, I love Theegala. Okay, so Adam Scott, boy, be tough to go back to. Be tough. So Sungjae's obviously he's played well here into the later part of the summer. Found his game. We talked about some of the struggles he had early. I mean, any of these guys at 3? I mean, are you going to get excited about Finau at 3? I mean,
Finau would be the one I'd get most excited about.
Okay.
I mean, he's a top 5 ball striker all season. He hasn't won, so no one really talks about him. Great short game. And if it gets super grainy on these greens, I give Finau and JT and a couple of these guys that aren't the best putters an opportunity because guys are going to miss some 5-footers and 6-footers because it's just Bermuda grass and it's brand new. And again, it's going to look fine on TV, but it's just not grown in yet. It's not set, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that's been through a growing at a golf course knows that it's really thin, especially around the greens and some of these chipping areas. And the ball's going to sit super low on these sandy loam lies in between the Bermuda blades. And man, you better be precise when you're clipping those things. You better be Nipsey Russell, man, because if you're not, right, it's Chunkopotamus is coming out. I'm telling you. It's just so good. And it just looks it looks like the top of my head. It is thinning. It is bad, so you just got to be precise. So in that range, I like Finau because of his short game. And I mean, obviously his ball striking has been impeccable all year. It's been really strong.
I agree. I agree with that. All right. 4 under.
Yep.
We got Sam Burns, who we love. We know that. We've talked about him. Patrick Cantlay, I was big on him last week. I still think Cantlay's, there playing.
The ball striking's great.
Yeah.
The putter was pretty bad last week.
Well, but we saw that extremes. I mean, obviously Finau really struggled. Victor really struggled. I mean, we saw some guys really struggle in particular parts of the game last week. I know Finau's not a wonderful putter, but just to the degree that we saw guys struggle, you could tell it was that different of an experience, right? Playing Castle Pines. Whether it was trying to control the ball at that altitude going into the greens, or it was even just on the greens.
It was.
So Burns, Cantlay, Morikawa, Clark, McIlroy. None of these guys other than Burns get me excited. I don't know where Rory's head's at. I mean, to me, it feels like if there's anybody that needs a vacation, it's Rory. I think Rory needs a vacation. I hope he, and he deserves it. That guy should just go away for 2 months and just rest, recharge the batteries, and come back. Did you see enough from Wyndham Clark over the last 2 weeks where you're like, maybe Wyndham starting to show signs?
It's good golf course fit. I
Yeah.
worry about the approach game. But guys are going to miss some greens this week because they're new and they might just not be as comfortable. But Wyndham Clark would be the second guy after Burns in that range.
Okay.
Right. He would be the second guy that I would be interested in. This week's card is just so weird because with both tournaments going on, I'm always concerned about what people's motivations are in order to win the shadow tournament or the 72 hole gross. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And because you can't even find the leaderboard online, right? Like with at PGAtour.com, I just wonder. So that's why, like, you keep hearing me being redundant about like guys that are fighting like a Christian Bezaden that wants to get on this President's Cup team, like guys like that, JT, Billy Horschel, like those guys have a ton of Russell Henley. They have a ton of motivation to play hard all week. I just
Rory, not so much.
I mean, man, I wish it was a Ryder Cup year and Rory had to roll out in like a month and figure it out right now and like get in the meat grinder because he just looks like he's just like, hey man, one more week.
Yeah, right.
And he'll play great here, but like I don't see him running up the leaderboard with the form he's had recently, etc.
Rory shoots 66 on Thursday. All right, now you have his attention, right? And so, yeah, I would love to see that. By the way, if Rory ran up the leaderboard, but I think he's I don't see it happening. He'll hover around top 10. But yeah, it's good to see Wyndham putting the pieces back together. I wouldn't rule out Cantlay, but I'm not in love with anybody right now. I think in the 4 under at that place outside of Burns, and I would put Clark second. Well, I'd probably put Cantlay second, but again, I think Burns is my guy. All right, so speaking of health, now we're up to 5 under. Ludwig, can the young Swede make a run here? I mean, would that be bigger for professional golf in its position for the PGA Tour versus Live? Bigger story for Ludwig to run up, young star, and catch Scotty and Xander, or it's Scotty Xander down the stretch?
Scotty Xander.
Okay.
Because people aren't going to know who Ludwig is, and we've kind of positioned those guys from a marketing perspective as the 2 stars.
Yeah.
So we want the stars to perform. So you're always better off if the stars do. Rory could jump in there. He's a known quantity, but
sure.
Ludwig is not known. If Ludwig wins the thing, then there'll be as many people saying like, oh, well, now he's going to go to Live because he's done everything he can on the tour. And then some people will say like, oh, he's like the new golden child or whatever. Like there'd be too much confusion surrounding all of it and too much opinion. If Scotty or Xander win, it makes sense to people. And that feels good in deep, dark places of their golf mind. And then they go, okay, well, like this year made sense. And then let's move on to next year and so on and so forth, or the President's Cup and then next year or whatever. So, yeah.
What's your feel with Ludwig with the Bermuda, thick Bermuda? Yeah, does that concern you at all with him?
It concerns me around the green, and that's why I don't like Aubert this week. Yeah. I love the kid. I also think I need some rest, but his short game
last week, finished second last week, drove the ball beautifully, putted beautifully.
Yeah. The ball striking it's just like, man, think of your favorite thing to eat. And like, that is like having it all day long as a kid.
I'd be curious to talk to Ludwig about the different grasses and, how he feels this week around. And it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch him this week on this golf course around the greens. Keegan, wow, at 6. Just all the respect in the world for Keegan Bradley. Awesome. got snubbed, Ryder Cup, gets the captaincy, guy goes out and wins. Just awesome stuff. I can't even imagine that phone call and what it meant. And I want to say, I'm not gonna say he hit the bottom, but emotionally, like that had to be a huge hit. And guy just keeps grinding. And he's a Keegan Bradley. I don't want to say he's an overachiever, but he's a grinder. He's a grinder. And I love grinders. I love guys that get knocked down, get back up and grind. He's a fighter, and I just got all the respect in the world for that dude.
Speaking of grinders, right? Life is always a tale of 2 sides. How do you think Zach Johnson's feeling right about now? Keegan slides in the 50 spot. The PGA of America has got to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. He's going to get in every signature event next year. He can play with all these possible Ryder Cup guys, right? And then he goes and wins the BMW. Now he's in the conversation to be, a captain's pick on the President's Cup. Oh my God.
It's just
Life's little ironies. It cracks me up, man.
Yeah.
It cracks me up. I'm sure he's a wonderful person, but man,
who's Zach?
I have a bone to pick with Zach about the way that team was run last year.
Oh, it just was not good. I mean, it wasn't good from the picks to the way he was in front of the microphone. I mean, we talked about it. Like, what am I watching right now? This looks like a fantasy football draft.
God, it's about as awkward as the first time I asked a girl out on the phone. It's ridiculous how bad all those press conferences. I love these guys. We're going to keep grinding and everything. Yeah. Okay. Keep putting Sam Burns out in foursomes and see how it works out, pal. Anyway, moving right along. The next person. Yes. So
is he going to finish the tournament?
I don't know. But I'm telling you, a healthy Hideki with his short game and the way he's been putting lately is extremely live in this thing.
Yeah, he's dangerous. I agree.
If you're looking for somebody to win the FedEx Cup over 10-1, Hideki is the guy, man. He is definitely the guy. And I was there in the rain delay. I was maybe one of like 60 people that was standing around that 18th green. The guy throws a dart on Thursday. He's one stroke behind Keegan for the first round lead. He throws a dart in at 2 feet on shot link, right? And then he misses the putt. And then the next morning, he's gone. Unbelievable. The guy was one shot off the lead with 54 holes to go. And he won the week before. So it wasn't like it was like an anomaly that he had one good round and then he's gone. And now he's going to show up down here in this swamp. Man, if he's healthy, he is super live this week. Super live.
I agree. I think, I think we're pretty much in line here this week with, I think Xander is the guy. I think Hideki could make some noise, and, Burns feels right. And if I had to go long and making a run up 72 holes, I'd probably go Victor for that thoroughbred. And so we get up to, we know Xander's the man here. Like he is the guy, as far as strokes gained over the last 5 years and playing this golf course and the whole bit. And so you go to Scotty, and we know Scotty's number one player in the world. We've seen it, huge lead, player of the year. BMW, we saw some frustration out of Scotty. So if you had to, if you had to shoot some holes through Scotty, if there's any, look, he was negative 3.3 approach last week. And I'm going through right now his entire career, and you'd have to go all the way back to November 20th at the Houston Open, where he lost 5.6. So just Castle Pines won.
Yeah.
The robot can he reboot it and get it back up and going again and just get dialed back in and run away with this thing?
In my mind, they are coming in dead even.
Okay.
And here's the deal. I disregard all of that last week. Scotty putting on Bermuda, brand new Bermuda, versus Xander at this golf course. Xander has an advantage. I don't care what anyone says. I don't. And you can't. I'll listen to the other argument, but I'm not really listening. It's like when you're watching,
like me, right? You're looking at me, but I don't think you're listening to me.
No. It's like if we were married and I was watching something on TV I really wanted to watch, and you came in the room and you're like, "Hey, did you do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I didn't hear a word you said. I'm good at that. It's. I mean, we're all good at it. We're guys. But and Xander knows it too. And Scotty, here's the best part. This is the last thing I'll say about these two. Scotty knows it too. 2 weeks ago, he's already given himself a mental out by saying this is a silly system. Right?
Yeah.
That's a guy saying, hey, this may not go my way, because the last 2 years it hasn't gone my way and I started number one. So that's kind of like letting some air out of the balloon. Whereas Xander, last week, he was the most open I have ever seen him in the last 3 years in a press conference, talking about everything from his favorite shot of the year, his biggest disappointment in golf. I mean, all these questions. And once those guys in the press room start to answer, like really answer questions, everybody wakes up and everybody asks for the microphone. And everyone gets all over asking questions because it's like, oh, today's the day he's in a good mood. He's going to answer, right? He answered all these questions, and he was so transparent. He feels so good about where he's going right now. And that 25 million, that's a dangerous dude to deal with, man. I'm telling you, going into this place, and I've walked around. It's been transformed, and it looks amazing. But man, A to B is still A to B here, and that guy knows A to B.
He knows A to B. You better be comfortable because you start getting into that crap off the fairways. Good luck, because that ball disappears and sits at the bottom. You know, I'll finish with this. Those are good points about Xander and Schauffele, and Scheffler, and I agree. Every time I think about Xander and what I've watched over the last 6 months, and you and I talked about this a lot at the end of last year, and how we were down on Xander and didn't feel good about the direction he was going. And, you know, his dad obviously did a lot for him, but I do think it did get to a point where Xander felt a little out of character. And I think since putting his dad a little more at arm's length, he hired Chris Como. I think Xander's made all the right decisions for his game, and you can see it not only on the golf course, but off. I think he's fantastic in the press room now, and I think he really is shining both on and off the course. I think JT, not that JT's not shining in the press room. JT's wonderful. I think JT needs to take a similar approach. I think there has to be some tough conversations sometimes, and I think it's time for him to take a step away, maybe from his dad, who's done obviously a ton of great stuff. But there's got to be some different perspective, I think, for JT there to get back on track. I believe that, and particularly with the putter. And Xander's done that, and so maybe they've chatted about that a little bit already. But that's what I think about Xander. As much respect as I've had for Keegan and his grinding and all that, you know, I got a lot of respect for Xander, and I think some of the tough decisions he's made that has now positioned him to have the year that he has had, 2 majors, and I think will win the Tour Championship, and just an incredible year by all states and purposes, because that dude's fun to watch. I mean, when he gets going, my goodness, he makes the game look easy. And I'm with you. I'm hoping Scotty kind of puts the pieces back together. We get that full robotic mode going again, where he's not missing shots and Xander's chasing, and these guys kind of separate down. That would be fun to see these two late on a Sunday, back 9. We're playing for the cash. I just wish it was like, and the player of the year. That's what I wish. That's what, you know what I'm saying? The PGA Tour grand finale and the player of the year, just like the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, just like you win the World Series, just, you know, Bo sealed, not, well, we got to vote on it because he had a, you know, I don't know. Come on. It's Tour Championship. It's a PGA Tour player of the year. Play it off. I don't care about the money. That's what we want. Come on. Player of the year, winner of the FedEx Cup. No, I'm bringing it my way.
I mean,
I'm
not
reeling
really.
you in. I'm reeling you in. Yes, I am.
No, like, to me, those subjective awards are just what they are. They're subjective. Yeah. They create conversations and podcasts and stuff like that. To me, like, you win the FedEx Cup, you're the FedEx Cup champion. That's great. Right. You know, you win the PGA Championship, you're the PGA champion for a year. And I'll tell you one thing. You want to sway some votes. You line those 2 guys up on Sunday.
Yeah.
Within a shot or 2 of one another, not one of them way ahead. And you let them go toe-to-toe for 18 holes.
Yep.
Then you'll really see something. Because
with Burns chasing.
Forget all that. But those 2, you know, No, point though, Travis. If Xander went out and beat him head-to-head in the last competitive round of the year, man, he could sway some people.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you'd have your wish. You get the player of the year to be the FedEx Cup champ. Because, man, who wouldn't sign up for that right now?
Yeah,
I'll bet
I would.
But I would sign up wholeheartedly to walk with those guys on Sunday, like I was with Adam and Keegan, right? I would be all over that.
Yeah.
Because the drama would be intensified times 1,000 over last week, which would be awesome.
Good stuff, man. As always, you've been great all year. You're on an absolute heater as of late. If you're not following at Read the Line, that's your own fault. And Keith Stewart, he'll be back. We're going to take some vacation after this week. We'll come back when the fall swing picks back up again. But what a season, right? I mean, it just it feels like the season has been like 2.5 years worth with all of the other stuff that has happened with
It
live
does.
golf and
Yeah.
the golf ball with the USGA. And, it's just, there's so many things that have happened off the course. These guys, man, I'll tell you, they've had to handle a lot, especially like Rory, who's taken a lot off the course. And, hopefully they get some time away. It's important. You see players
Yeah.
like Lexi Thompson, who wants to retire at a young age. Burnout is real. And in
Oh,
this
sure.
in this world of, it's all right there in your hands, but you can only process so much. And then you start taking on more. And pretty soon you like, God, I don't even like this anymore. I don't even like doing this anymore. And so I just hope like none of these guys get to that point, going into next
Yeah.
season, because it's easy to get there. I mean, shit, it starts in a couple weeks again, right? It's like you don't even have time to
Yeah.
like regroup. So hopefully they get a little vacation. You need to take some vacation, and then we'll fire it back up again in the full swing. How's that?
Hey, man, you know what I always say? I don't like doing this. I love it because there's nothing better than being on a stripe show.
So how many times? I'll send you all the bottle wine I own, all the bets I lost this year.
Hey, man, we still got 8 events in the fall plus the President's Cup. So, I can
All
get
right,
that thing up to a case.
Okay, sounds good. Keith Stewart, I read the line. You're the man, buddy. Thank you.
Peace.
Awesome.